Hello! Hope you're all okay. Hope you've had a good weekend. I posted the film poster research PowerPoint to the Google Classroom last week. This is just the video to go with it, to just take you through and give you a bit more guidance. As always, watch it, pause it, rewind it, take notes, anything you need to do to make sure that you've got this sorted. If you've got any questions, email me as well. I'm always, available, and I'll help you out as much as I can. So, in the brief, it states that you have to create both a teaser poster and a theatrical release. Now, we've already covered this with Black Panther, where the teaser posters showed one character with a slogan on each, but all in mid close-ups, either giving direct address or looking down. They're the ones that are up on the corridor in college, if you can remember. So it would say, for his king or for his country or something, anchored on that character with the Black Panther branding at the bottom of the screen. And then the theatrical poster, if you remember, was an ensemble cast poster with the main character in the middle, and then all the other characters anchored around him, protagonists and antagonists, all with this very rich blue, purple colour scheme, so very regal colours with black and gold as well, and these kind of Afro-futuristic designs in the background. So this is a complete side. Afrofuturism, for representation, is a school of thought or a school of art that is based on what would have happened or what could have happened in the African nations had they not been colonised and enslaved. So that's the main kind of theme, really, with Black Panther. The whole theme is that Wakanda was kept secret for 400 years, and so it was unable, or people were unable to exploit it. And that's all covered in the poster. So you're really thinking about how you're going to construct that kind of depth of narrative and cultural competence in your advertising campaign for your film. Your teaser poster has to have at least one main image. All your images have to be different across the two posters, the DVD cover, and the website if you're doing a website. So you're allowed to use similar photos, but they can't all be the same. You need to have an element of narrative enigma in your teaser poster. So either something like indirect mode of address. Teaser posters normally just have one character, perhaps in a mid close-up, perhaps in soft focus with no background showing, so very little context given, bar the anchorage of the text on the character, and also perhaps props just to give away a little bit of genre. You'll need written text such as the tagline, title and release date as appropriate. So I'm going to go through a couple of posters in a bit that do that. And you'll also need the production company logo, so you know by now that for film poster it's either going to be BBC Film or Film 4. You should have chosen by now as well. And then you'll also need the film's website and social media logos, so Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, whatever, on the poster as well, to engage audiences across a variety of platforms, and that will be referenced in your statement of aims. And I'll also be marking on how well you think about your film within an industry context. Now, for the theatrical release, you need to make sure you've got your original title and tagline with the same mode of address, same wording, same fonts as your teaser poster, your DVD cover, and your website if you're doing one. Once again, you need to have at least one main image. I've always said, hopefully you've remembered by now, that I always say try and use composite images on your covers for film. So rather than taking one photo of three people, take three individual photos in the same lighting at the same time, and then Photoshop them together so you can prove you've used at least one main image. That will also improve the marks that you're given for your construction as well. You need to have an element of narrative. So, for example, in more character types, In your theatrical release, like I was saying, you would give a little bit more of the narrative of the film. So you might show some background, you might anchor characters on each other, you might have direct mode of address rather than indirect mode of address. And then you will need to have the release date, the billing block, the production company's logo, the film website, and the social media logos. So the difference between the teaser and theatrical poster in terms of the text that should be on the page is the billing block and the addition of film festival and award nominations or critical comments. So I'll show you now kind of what you need to be going through. So for your teaser poster narrative, you need to make sure that you're using Enigma codes to attract your audience. Don't give too much context to your images. You're trying to create a mystery, a sense of suspense, a sense of rhetoric, really. You want rhetorical questions that will be answered with the rest of the campaign and the release of the film. So what you're really doing is focusing the audience's mind on your product so that they wait for more information, and the longer they wait or the more questions that are raised, the more curious they are about your feature. Make sure your backgrounds are plain, in soft focus, or they're cropped out. So you might have a block colour background with just the character, or you might have a slight gradient, just again to create that enigma. Your focus will probably be on the star. You're doing a BBC film, you're not doing something for like Disney, so you wouldn't have, say, Captain America's shield or something. You would expect this to be fairly person-based. You might use extreme close-ups to create suspense in horror genre posters, so things like Us or the Get Out close-ups of Daniel Kaluuya's eyes are quite a nice example there. Film 4 tend to do horror more than BBC films, so if you're considering a horror film, that would perhaps help you choose your production company. You might again use close-ups or extreme close-ups of any details, so hands, knives, etc. The tagline and the name of the film are going to be prominent and easy to read. Make sure that if you're using a sans serif font, it's not too thin, that it doesn't show up on the background. You want people to kind of lean in and see when the release date is, but you don't want it to be so faint that if they were going past on the bus, they wouldn't be able to see it. Consider how your negative space is used. You want to focus the audience's attention on the details in the poster as much as possible. Think about your Z line, think about your F zone as well. So we read the page across from left to right, then down, then across in the shape of an F. That's how our eyes scan the page, that and the Z line. And you might decide to create intertextual references to play on the audience's existing knowledge. So, for example, from the director of Daniel Blake, from the director of Hereditary, or something like that. The genre is going to be clear from the use of colour, costume, font, anchorage, and mise-en-scène. So, again, horror films, you might choose to have red, you might choose to have black or dark grey in the background if it was a masculine film, so something about, I don't know, gang violence, you might choose to have a grey background or a blue background. If it is something a bit more existential, philosophical, witty, you might choose to have a white background or a soft colour background. Sci-fi, you might choose to have turquoise in the background. So make sure all of that is very clear. In terms of your film poster conventions, these are the main things that the brief asks for. So they ask for a tagline, a title, your producer, your image, your age rating, your Enigma code, any action codes, billing blocks, the star, and critical acclaim. Now, you are welcome to pause this screen, take a screenshot, copy it down, whatever you want. Just make sure that you've got those terms in there. Roland Barthes is very big with the construction of any media text. So think about your semantics, think about where things are positioned in the frame, think about your anchorage. You should be starting to get kind of clearer ideas now. You should be starting to kind of figure out exactly what is going to go where, what kind of photos you need, etc. And perhaps starting to plan who you're going to shoot if social distancing guidelines are relaxed. So the first poster I want to take you through is the Joker teaser poster. So this ran for a long time. It ran for about 6 months before the film came out and created a lot of interest in the film. So what we see is Joker That's the main text we see on the film, and then our eye is drawn immediately down to this very unusual image. So the use of negative space offers that narrative enigma. It asks us to think about, or it kind of it's the absence of any usual conventions that creates curiosity here and makes us see that this might be a truly original film, or at least a truly original take on the character. Fans of Batman or DC Comics, or indeed any kind of superhero film, will know Heath Ledger's Joker performance is considered to be the best. And also that Jared Leto's recent iteration of the Joker was not well received. And so this might be seen as kind of a palate cleanser for audiences. So we have this very dark background, black fading to light grey. We see our character looking up into that darkness from the light. So you almost get a sense that this character starts out perhaps in a little state of equilibrium and maybe embraces that narrative disequilibrium towards the end of the story. We see Joaquin Phoenix above the word Joker, so the name of the star is also prominent on this poster. We then assume that this is the person who is in that makeup at the bottom. We then have the tagline, which is "Put on a happy face." I've put a link here in the second box up, or the second row up on that table, that just takes you to the intertextual reference to this song. It's from an old musical, and it's used kind of ironically or sarcastically, because when you see this Joker, it doesn't seem like there's a lot to be happy about. We see the smudged makeup, we see the arm raised, and he's looking up into the sky. That could be blood on his chin, it could be the red paint from his lips. We then see underneath that October 4th release date, the DC logo, and beneath that, very, very small, Warner Brothers. So the main bits of information we're asked to take away from this poster are the word Joker, the release date, and the star. We then move to the theatrical poster, and you'll see the difference now in the context that's given and how just the insertion of that background creates the narrative. So the star's name is brighter and more prominent at the top. The fact that this says IMAX indicates the quality of the film and how much DC and Warner Brothers believe in this product, that they're willing to produce it in IMAX and screen it on IMAX cinema screens. We again see that faded and damaged sans serif title, which is consistent with the teaser poster. So we're now starting to create that consistent brand across platforms. We see Todd Phillips up at the top, so a Todd Phillips film above where it says Joker. And then that tall, narrow writing underneath where it says October 3rd, that's the billing block. Okay, so we would normally do it in Arial Narrow, or you can find billing block templates online. You can insert the text, save it as a JPEG, and pop it into your poster. The use of the burning car in the background also creates that kind of negative chaos and the sense of disequilibrium. But we see again that juxtaposition between the burning car in the background and the posture of the star. So the posture of the star is happy. He's smiling, his arms are out, he looks relaxed, shoulders are back. The arms stretched out almost looks angelic, and then the fire behind him creates a halo. So we're creating all kinds of polysemy and juxtaposition now. So this is a really, really sophisticated poster. We then see, I think it says Warner Village Media, that little triangle in the bottom left. We see the Warner Brothers logo. We see DC in the bottom as well, with the release date. So this poster here contains pretty much everything we need except for the age rating. Your age rating would normally go in the bottom right hand corner on a poster and a DVD cover. The next one I wanted to show you is Never, Rarely, Sometimes, Always, produced by the BFI and Focus Features. We see as well a little bit of funding from Universal and the National Lottery. So many companies came together to produce this film. Now I'm giving you this poster because I gave you the DVD cover in the last presentation, but since that film was first kind of marketed, lockdown happened. So this film was due to be released in the first couple of weeks of lockdown. So they've had to very hastily redo all of their marketing to prepare for a digital release. So you could potentially make your media products for a digital release if lockdown is something that we need to take into account when we create this piece of work. So Reclaim the Frame is funded by the BFI, and it focuses on female artists and British influencers. You'll see at the top it says bird's eye view, and underneath it says the female gaze all ways. So we're focusing on female filmmakers, female writers, directors, actors, to try and boost the visibility of women, or people that identify as women, within the British film industry. We have that critical acclaim from Sundance. So Sundance, one of the most respected film festivals in the world. After Cannes, probably the most respected. It says, masterfully creates a Spartan cinematic language through gestures and details. So we'll see here, there's a lot more text on the poster, first of all, but we also use a much higher register. So the mode of address here is much more complex. So a Spartan cinematic language. The audience would have to understand what Spartan means in order to understand what that whole quote means. So Sparta was an area of ancient Greece. The Spartan warriors and soldiers were considered to be the strongest in the Greek Empire, but they lived a very, very minimalist lifestyle. So if something is Spartan, that means it's very minimalist, very restrained, very pulled back, very clean in terms of the way that something is presented. So that's what that quote means there. The phrase never, rarely, sometimes, always is a reference to the depression questionnaire or the mental health questionnaires that GPs and hospitals give out in order to ascertain the mental state of somebody that might be struggling. Again, to see it anchored under the star's eye indicates that this is about her. The hood up and the facial expression also indicate that. This is a very unusual DVD cover and poster campaign in that we have a very closely cropped star looking directly at the camera and text anchored on the face. You could do something like this if your photography and your framing were sharp enough. But the reason we have that, again, Spartan sans serif font is because we don't want to complicate things too much with the clarity of that facial expression. We see the producer logos at the bottom and the bottom left. You would have BBC Film, you might choose to have the National Lottery, the BFI logo, and you would also have the age rating in that bottom left-hand corner there as well. So we'll see it says download and keep from May 13th. That should have been a cinematic release date about a month earlier than that. But as I said, lockdown happened, so they've had to very hastily distribute this in order to boost those profits or keep that profit that they would have lost from closing down cinemas. And then we see again here a very quickly created poster at home on demand on April 3rd, and then you can download and keep from May 13th. So the title is now in the bottom left, but still in keeping with the Z line. We see much less anchored on the star's face. By this point, it would be assumed that the audience knows what the film is. So at home on demand, we see that girl's face. We know that this is a poster for never, rarely, sometimes, always. So I just wanted to show you that, to show you how clean it could be as well. Again, you would need to put a couple of reviews on this page and the age rating, as well as the logos, if you wanted to do something like this. Moving on from that, we've got Blue Story. So Blue Story, released last year, very famously banned in cinemas. With the current climate, could be seen as kind of racial discrimination, so discrimination against people of black origin, which is why the film was perhaps blocked from cinematic release by a couple of chains. The producer and director of the film, Ratman, has since come out and said that that would never happen again. If this movement is powerful enough, that should never happen again. It should just be understood that this is what the culture is, and it shouldn't be censored or mediated or deemed unacceptable by somebody else. So we see the director is given billing over the stars. There are no star names on this, but instead we get the name of the director and his previous film. The London postcodes are at the top, so SE13 and SE15. It would need to be, you would need to have an understanding of how London works to know that those are two postcodes. along with the two colours in the background, indicating that these two people are perhaps fighting on different sides of the battle. But the anchorage suggests that these two are friends. We see the characters wearing stereotypically working class clothes, or streetwear, or clothes associated with gang warfare. These clothes tend to have negative connotations. If you've ever been followed around a shop or looked at suspiciously, it may be because you were wearing clothes like this or hanging around with people that were wearing clothes like this. In terms of your representation, a few of the things I've seen are quite harmful stereotypes of kind of black people. So we do tend to, the representations I'm being sent, if they are of black people, do tend to be kind of snarling, wearing Cuban necklaces, big diamonds, kind of very negative, kind of gangland associated representations, which we may just need to keep an eye on. And then we have that billing block at the bottom, very faint, going across the middle. You would also need to have, as I was saying before, your age rating, your release date, and your institutional logos on that poster. This then is the other poster for that. So it says down there, a British Boys in the Hood. I've put a link here to Boys in the Hood. If you want to watch it, I think it's on Netflix. It is an absolutely fantastic film, very culturally relevant at the moment, focuses on gentrification and the pushing and systemic deprivation of black cultures in America into deprived neighborhoods with deprived education, fewer job opportunities, and the gentrification that comes when other people decide that this is going to be a profitable area and then people are pushed out. It also focuses on gang violence, and we have a father figure and a son who are trying to stay out of trouble. The boy keeps getting pulled back in. Very, very interesting. I would urge you to watch it. But audiences would need to understand that reference in order to get that quote in the bottom. John Singleton, again, a very famous director, passed away last year. Very well respected black filmmaker. We'll also see 4 pieces of critical acclaim. So 4-star reviews with the name of the reviewer underneath. So the institution that that person works for. So it would be like The Guardian, Mojo, Enemy, whatever. Okay. And we do have the age ratings on this. So the red one is the UK age rating. The blue one is the Irish age rating. So you can use both of those. The age rating barcode on your and the barcode on your poster, you can download those. The examiner isn't expecting you to make your own age rating logos. Lastly, just got to put a bit of John Wick in. You know I love Keanu. Very, very nice. No anchorage whatsoever. It just says John Wick, Chapter 3, Parabellum, right at the bottom. The audience is expected to understand by now who this character is. So the suit, the blood, all the guns and knives in that kind of crucifix shape pointing at him. He seems to be highlighted as an angel figure. So there's the juxtaposition between the religious imagery and his reputation as a dangerous killer. We're almost kind of picturing him as an angel of death here. There's even a skull at the top of the page. And the angels that are portrayed just by his chest also have skulls rather than faces. So we're definitely trying to create this fun, kind of almost satirical reference to the action genre here, with the reds, the blues, the purples, the pinks, the turquoise, and that juxtaposition of religious imagery and the gun and the blood. And then the tasks I want you to complete for this are, if you can, find the posters to match the DVD covers that you analysed last time. If you can't find suitable posters, try and find posters that are thematically similar. So in terms of narrative, star, genre, things that match the posters, the DVD covers that you constructed for BBC Films or Film 4. Demonstrate how the posters and the DVD covers create a consistent brand identity. So it might be worth posting the DVD cover small at the top of your slide, put the poster on nice and big, and then just, rather than having to type things out loads of times, just give me 4 or 5 sentences that demonstrate how they construct that consistency to maximise audience and minimise that risk. I'll also need you to show me if and how the theatrical poster expands on the enigmas given in the teaser poster, and if so, why is this done? And then on your last slide, if you can, summarise some of your ideas for narrative and your posters so I can give you some feedback. All right, that's it. Take care. Have a good week. I'm looking forward to seeing what you do. All right, bye.